That's why I'm having to struggle with this. So I want to say hi to everybody. I'm in production. This is entertainment. We are discussing the preservation of local freedom and liberty and other nonsensical topics. We will avoid going after people in a mean-spirited manner. Yeah, avoid. And yet we will attack all the backcrap crazy stuff.
I gotta leave then.
We will attempt to bring you interesting guest topics and a modicum of entertainment. And there he is. Okay, what is your coffee of the day going to be?
Is this their cup?
Yeah, I love that.
I bet I love
A 20-ounce triple zebra
almond roca,
mocha breve. Okay.
Yo, dude.
Hey, here's Cameron.
Hey.
Sit down, Cameron.
All right.
No.
Not until you realize that for guys like me, you might as well have walked in here and spoken German.
Yeah.
A 20-ounce
Triple
zebra.
Yep. White and dark chocolate.
White and dark chocolate.
There.
And then almond roca is the flavoring of that. And then breve is half and half.
Yeah.
I can't use foul language, but that's pretty amazing.
Okay, do you guys know what today is?
Today is my nephew's birthday.
Today's your nephew? Okay. Do you know who your nephew shares his birthday with?
I do not.
He shares his birthday with, I'm sure, some Nazi leaders or something like that, but we're going to avoid that. John Gruden.
Really?
John Gruden's birthday is today. And this was, when I was looking through this really upset me. Yvonne Craig, the original Batgirl on TV, she passed away today in 2015. I loved her. I mean, I just one of those random things. You know?
See, I've been very concerned about losing Aretha Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
And you're talking about John Gruden's birthday.
John Gruden's birthday.
I'm feeling pretty, I mean, he's a pretty, didn't he just get hired as the head coach at, where, San Francisco?
I think so.
Yeah.
They brought him back from the dead again.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
he keeps going out west, out east, out west, out east.
Yeah.
So, but, okay. Uh-oh. Oh, he's feeling peckish. Going through. No, I didn't know if I was going to take a rubber band and put the cell phone on something, or I have no idea. I was telling him I have a fairly good camera and stuff. I want to get some better equipment, and this is a shout out to Graham Ona Dickinson. This is why I need you here. To get a better streaming going through. But today's just. I guess a trial run for it.
Cool.
Maybe I can ask those guys from Fan.
To help you?
To help me.
Why don't you, in fact, I was just with them yesterday. Why don't you set it up so you can introduce your show on their show next week?
Oh, that'd be great. Exactly. They always seem to, I've been complaining because I've been working those doubles and everything else. I'm too old for this. But you know what? Not only am I too old.
You are talking.
The crypt keeper.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? No, I've replaced a roof. I've worked on the car, and then just recently I had to replace my air conditioning system. I'm never going to have money. That's all there is to it. That, and I gave thousands of dollars. This is embarrassing. No, I will claim I gave my $5 to this campaign.
Hey man, every little bit helps. Right?
Well, that's the other thing. No, I figure if everybody.
See, here's the good news. I now can get hired for $5.
He's raised his rates. Anyway.
Right.
Okay, you guys want to have some fun?
Yeah.
All right. I was going to tell you, today is Chinese Valentine's Day. I kid you not.
So if I play golf at Pine Lakes today,
yeah,
I can wear little hearts and stuff, and they'll know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or I can go out and have lunch with John Rose.
Shay.
John John Rhodes and Mark Lazarus.
Lazarus, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's why we're celebrating at all the golf courses today.
Right.
But it's always so confusing. You go on the internet and you try to find out about these things. And they all have a different. Okay, it's either called Double Seventh Day, or it's called Daughters Festival, or it's called something else. Actually, it's the real pronunciation of it's something like Shin Chi. No, they Chi Shi Yik or something like that. Seventh Evening Festival.
Doesn't that remind you of A Christmas Story?
Yeah.
At the end when they're all singing in the restaurant. Oh my God.
They have the tradition of the Weaver Girl and the Ox Herd, or otherwise known as the Cow Herd. And I even downloaded the thing. I read the story. It makes no sense to me whatsoever, so I believe it's true.
Okay.
But they've been celebrating it for over 2,000 years.
All right.
They pretty much, celebrate it the same way we do Valentine's Day, and I was so disappointed. I thought there would be things like the guy would have to crack open the girl's cookie to find out his fortune. I thought it'd be really interesting.
Black coffee.
Can I get a mug while you're at it? A mug.
Why isn't it that interesting? I mean,
It is interesting.
it should be. It
Absolutely.
should be. Okay.
This is very refreshing stuff.
It is. It's
Because when
good
you're
stuff.
living in a Nazi society like we live in here, this is if they come barging through the door, just be prepared.
Right now. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we are right next to City Hall.
And that's right.
You just never know.
It's the old City Hall, the new City Hall,
They're going to ban coffee. I
The new
heard-
overlay.
I heard yesterday, Shy Dave and I were talking, and here's the latest thing. Brenda's been introduced to ban stairways, all steps. I mean, if they execute the ban while you're upstairs, you're hosed.
You're done.
Yeah. And the reason for that is people fall sometimes.
That's true. Well, here, I'm glad you said that. New overlay sales restrictions proposed in Myrtle Beach Oceans keep family friendly.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Number 10,
What? Okay.
sunblock over SPF 10. Because it only encourages Irish tourists to stay longer. Yes. Number 9, rope, shoes, paper, and clothing, anything made of hemp.
Oh.
Well, because you don't know how much THC it
You
possesses.
don't, you
Yeah,
really
that's right.
don't,
Yeah,
no.
we've got to protect ourselves. Number 8, white tank top T-shirts.
Why?
Since they're called wife beaters, it significantly reduces the domestic violence on the boulevard.
Yeah, that's all. That's
Weigh in anytime, guys.
you get better than me.
Number 7, soap on the rope. Oh, come on, it's obvious. We want to keep the public showers family friendly.
Oh my! I understand Jerry Sandusky's moving down here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Penn State.
Yes.
Yeah, he's actually he's got a franchise for Soap on the Road.
Ah.
That's Ben's going. Where are we? Number 6.
Number 6.
All right.
All herbals that claim to act as antidepressants.
Okay.
Because we don't want anything counteracting the effects of alcohol or the effects of local government on our tourists and local businesses.
Okay.
Sunglasses with corrective lenses. Number 5.
Why is that?
We don't want the tourists to be able to read the bacterial warning signs as they leave the beach.
Yes, sir. Optics over action. All of
That's
it.
right. That's right. We have to hire somebody to make sure that we get the message out. Number 4, fireworks and thong bikinis.
Now this one hurts.
Why not? They're sold everywhere anyway, and it's illegal to use or wear. Yeah. Mayonnaise. I debated on this one. It was between mayonnaise and ranch dressing. Probably both
Okay.
have on there. It's often a condiment of choice of visitors. We want everybody to feel a sense of discomfort while they're here. Okay. Number 2.
It's gonna really wreck a bunch
Yeah.
of parties. Though.
Yeah. And this one I cannot find out where it came from. Number 2, home brewing kits. Obviously, we must prevent the public from learning poor communication skills, apathy for citizens and businesses, and really subpar government management. Okay.
Oh my God.
Number 1, the newest overlay restriction on the boulevard. And this one's really going to sting. Heroin.
No.
It competes with the free methadone being distributed by the clinics supported by our tax dollars. There you go.
Very nicely done. I think
That's right. That's the
So what was number 2 again? Could you just repeat?
the home brewing kits.
The home brewing kits.
Because obviously, we must prevent the public from learning poor communication skills, apathy for citizens and businesses, and really subpar governmental management.
You know, there's a store just opened up in the overlay district called Worst Brands. And the beer sucks.
The beer
It sucks.
More filling, less taste. More filling, less taste. Yeah, I can
Didn't
see
go
it.
to city council Tuesday. You didn't. I had to leave.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I've been through a lot here in my life, but that was the end.
Yeah.
I don't mind saying that. It was like, where am I and when is this? They refuse to listen to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And when the public says something they don't agree with, they hit the gong, you know, bong, bong,
Bong.
off stage.
Yeah, the giant hook.
They should do the hook. They might as well get one.
Yeah.
They announced the day before the meeting that they would not have a time limit on Tuesday. And then the first thing she said was, we're putting it back to the time limit. The merchants.
Oh,
This is really amazing.
it's falling apart fast. I mean, it really is.
Is that a good thing? I think it's a good thing.
It
Is
probably.
it a good thing? I don't know.
I don't know. You know, it's hard to say, because I mean, I want things to function, but I don't want them to start going headlong into the abyss, and I'm afraid that's what they keep pushing it to do. You know, her campaign, just about everything on her campaign, promises, speeches, everything she said, it's all starting to unravel and go back.
Right.
Because, you know, we all knew that we re-elected John Rhodes in high heels. And it's just the same, you know, the same influences, the same push, and everything else. So
A good friend of mine wants to launch a big campaign called, it's a picture of John Rhodes, and it says, "Miss me yet?"
Well, how about this one? School district threatens lawsuit on bond project. I mean,
We should have gotten Ed Carey over here for that.
oh yeah.
This is unbelievable. You know this story?
Go ahead.
Well, the long and short of it is, when the short version, when Market Common was an idea, when they had the DRC was originally created primarily, among its primary functions, was to figure out what to do with the Air Force Base and how to build the infrastructure and then to invite people. So that's what they did. And I don't know who did the contract for the lighting on Faro Parkway, but I wish I had it. Because they put a giant lamppost every 3 feet instead of every 50 feet. It's a lamppost for 5 miles, right? Anyway, the deal was that the tax revenue from that TIF, that district, I forget what percentage of it is, goes to the school district to build a school because there's more people moving there. Makes sense. We do that everywhere, right? They haven't given them the money. They're not giving them. They don't want to give them. So the school is probably going to sue. And then they came up with a new version, right? Which is, well, we're going to give you the money in stages over the next 20 years. Like, no, the deal was we get the money to build a school.
Yeah.
Just mind-blowing.
Well, and probably because there's no money to give them, they've already taken that money and done something else with it.
They spent on advertising in Timbuktu.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a curse that's all over the. I mean, it's a curse that's not only with government. It's some businesses run that same way. They run a Ponzi scheme even with construction. They take down money from 4 property owners to build one house. And then they're late in delaying the other ones because they have to get 12 more homeowners to put down dear money so they can build the next house. And it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And Marie got caught into it in Cipriani
She
Park.
did?
Yeah. And
Really?
now, but she
So
burned
is Marie the one that's been robbing everybody over there?
That's right. But it's just they didn't encounter somebody that would put something in the contract about the move-in rate, and they were completely caught flat-footed with that. Two had a DC attorney.
Really?
Yeah. So they got caught flat-footed with that. They weren't going to give back the entire amount, the entire $150,000 for nothing. Well, they built the house, now they want to sell it, and then they're like, wait a minute, you put a lien on it? Okay, we'll give you the $150 back. Well, no, now it's been so much time, we want a little bit more, because you've been tying up, we haven't been able to get a house or anything else because you've been tying up our money. So, I mean, it's crazy.
It's all crazy.
It is. It's
Cameron,
insane.
how's the campaign going?
Yeah.
Man, it's going. It's busy. It's picking up. Working on another video for next week.
Good.
So,
Ooh,
yep.
topless? Or are you going to wear a hat?
Yeah, but things are good. Making relationships, meeting with businesses, meeting with individuals. So,
All right.
Yeah, it's been good.
You've been bringing in some campaign funds.
Slowly, yeah.
Slowly.
We've got. It's picking up a lot from what it used to be, for
Now,
sure. We've got a long way to go.
Your competition has gotten a buttload of money that has come in from, let's see, well, it's Chamber. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Isiah. And the regular folks, which obviously they don't care about spending. They just want to make sure that they've got somebody that, I mean, this is somebody that hasn't represented their district for a long time. And she doesn't even seem to have a lot of support within, and I don't know, but it doesn't seem like she has a lot of support within her own party. It's passive support.
What party would that be?
The ones with the bankers.
Yeah,
The one that doesn't exist?
yeah.
You mean Rhino Land out there in
Yeah.
Conway? Yeah.
Yeah.
that's, no, they don't really support her very much, but then they don't know what to do. It's the
yeah.
most dysfunctional group of people I've ever seen. Last week they had 21 people at their monthly meeting. That's not even a quorum. For the last 2 months they can't even vote.
Oh my God.
They can't even vote because you got to have, I think, 27 ECs just to have a vote. There weren't even that. I don't know how many were ECs, like 7.
Wow.
Nobody goes.
Wow.
And then I don't know if you saw today's Sun News, or no, it was in the Washington Times about the Democrats' voter turnout in 7 states this year is double what it was. Wow. And we have no organization. This is a brewing nightmare.
Yeah.
So, and it's the Republican Party's fault.
Yeah,
Here,
absolutely.
in Columbia and in Washington.
Yeah.
So,
I think a lot of that, though, I mean, it's what happens when you have candidates that they don't run really on anything. They don't really run because they don't have opponents. But even when they do run, they maybe have a couple of talking points or a bill that they might support, but they're not running on like a political philosophy, right? So people aren't going to go to the GOP meetings if there's no reason, there's no vision. We're not trying to accomplish.
Who's got the prettier postcard?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
essentially what they're running with.
Yeah.
My postcard's prettier than yours.
who
I'm
has
gonna
the
win.
most signs, who has the prettiest postcard, who's
Yeah.
on the radio, who's on TV.
Yeah.
And that's why 17 different political action committees that all come out of the same street address on Oak Street are able to control everything. It's the incumbent protection plan.
I like that. The incumbent
It is, I mean, that's what it is. It's a friggin' nightmare.
Yeah.
However, look what's happened in the last year.
Uh,
3 members of city council. Now, I'm not pleased with the replacement team, but they're gone.
Yeah.
And then we have a new county chairman against all odds.
Yeah.
And we have a new member of the House of Representatives from North Myrtle Beach. And everybody said that was impossible.
And North Myrtle Beach rejected the same
TDF.
TDF
Absolutely.
proposal. Yeah, and that's beautiful and telling.
It is.
But yeah, it's hopefully it seems like we're they're going to have to circle their wagons even more because we seem to be pushing them more and more into a corner. But
Well, we need guys like you. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find people that are willing to step up.
Yep.
Now, what's the next stage? Probably October, knocking on doors?
Well, we've already started some door knocking, and especially businesses a lot right now, because I want to hear, what are the businesses experiencing? What are the issues? What are the questions that they have? And everybody I've talked to, nobody's ever heard of their representative. They don't really follow politics very often, even though they're immensely impacted by it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of what we're trying to do right now is, like y'all mentioned, to let the Republican community that's here and the independents that are here, the libertarian, everybody really that's here, to know there is actually another choice, because they've never heard of it. They don't know anything about it, but it does impact them. And so getting the word out that really, if you are a conservative voter, if you're somebody that cares about making sure we rein in some of this government craziness that's going on, especially the budgets and the spending and the taxes, that, we do have a candidate that represents that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now,
And we can, and with some help, and people are trying to find ways to help.
Yep.
We've got to prevent the R thing. See, this is one of the few states in America where you can push R and it
hits the
everybody.
the column.
And if that happens, you're toast.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right.
You can't let that happen.
Yep.
And and I think, I don't know what the ultimate campaign's going to be, but to me, pushing R is Rhino.
Right.
not Republican.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what did I say at the meeting the other day? I said, no, you weren't there. Eric was at the Myrtle Beach Women's Luncheon. She asked me to say a few things, and I went off. All of a sudden, I went crazy. And I said, there are more rhinos in Horry County than there are in Africa. I mean, it's a nightmare here. Name a conservative Republican in office. I can one. Tyler
Yeah.
is the only one.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like all these people,
Sure.
but liking them and needing what they stand for is two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do this. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I think you're right, and kind of like you mentioned, a lot of the problem is the people that are involved in the political scene around here. They've been Republicans forever. They are aware of the situation. They're willing. They've verbally committed to me that they have no problem voting this way, even if they have to do it in secret. But the problem is that everybody else that follows the Republican Party, at least at the ballot box, they're not really informed enough yet to be aware that clicking that R, that's not what necessarily their leadership's doing. That's
Correct.
not necessarily what the party's even doing. But they got to get the word out there to let them know.
Good point. Absolutely.
What's the I don't know how to even put this. What is standing in the way of some of these guys that are within the Republican Party that are like, I'm really supporting your candidate, Will, but I'm not doing it, publicly. Yeah. And,
Well, I can speak from personal experience, although not as a candidate, but as an activist and a consultant. And part of the problem, my dear friend Senator Cleary, who's one of the best guys we've ever had in office, not necessarily the most conservative guy, but that's okay because he was totally honest.
Yeah.
His whole thing was, I am what I am, and you're going to know I vote. So I would say he was kind of sort of an old-fashioned old-fashioned Eisenhower Republican, sort of a middle of the road kind of a guy, but a tremendous guy. And so I did. 15 years ago, if you didn't like an elected official, shoot me. Because there was one point, I think, where I had 13 people that were elected officials, state or local, that were my clients, okay? And then comes the TDF and the biker problem. And I raised my voice against it, and that's why I'm answering the question is, if you do that here, you're out.
Yeah.
My income went from substantial to zero in like a day.
Yeah.
And I'm still public enemy number one, or at some level I'm public enemy. And it's absurd because I'm hoping that we all have the same objective. We have different ways of approaching it.
Yeah.
One of the problems with America right now is I'm not sure we have the same objective.
Sure. Yeah.
In the old days, we all had the same objective, a different way of getting it. I mean, this morning I'm watching Andrew Cuomo or whatever it is talk about America was never great and all this stuff. It's like, where are we? Anyway, so the risk you run to step out like this is that if you're not willing to toe the line of all the money, because this town has old money, okay? Even the new players are connected with old money. So if you're not willing to do that, and not willing to play that game, they don't want you. Even if your votes and your positions, Cameron, could be helpful to them, doesn't matter, because they won't know that you're going to toe the line. So I don't know that answers your question, but
Thanks, man.
this is not the only place that's like this. But I think it's the only place where, I'll put it this way, we have, I'll bet you, what's the population here? 330,000 in Oregon County, something like that. Myrtle Beach is over 30,000. And I'm taking a wild step. We probably have 100,000 retirees. Something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And out of those people, I'm guessing we have at least 5,000 superstar experts on public safety, infrastructure, building and construction, you name it, in every field, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to hear what they have to say. They know what they're doing better than those people do.
Sure.
And all they would have to do is open up the doors and say, you know what, if you know anything about ocean water, dirty ocean water, or if you know anything about congestion and public transportation, pick the issue, okay? We need your help. And you know what? There'd be all sorts of people that say, it's like when you go to a SCORE meeting where they have people that are helping people out. So they don't want help because they think it would erode their power base. Nobody wants their power. Everybody wants it fixed. I have the same, and I'm sure Cameron does too, the same exact desires for better schools, better environment, the quality of life is what it's always about.
Yeah.
The difference is they pass things like overlays that restrict t-shirts in a 20-block area and CBD gummy bears, not CBD, what's it called?
Edibles.
Yeah, gummy bears that are legal everywhere, including here. And yet, even though you can't buy them next year downtown, you can buy them across from Savannah's playground in Market Common.
Yeah.
So we have to change this culture, and it's only going to happen with young people like Cameron getting involved in this process and being willing to take the slings and arrows, because you're going to get them.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm done speaking.
You are?
I am. Shut up.
All righty. Okay. Another thing I've been noticing the paper, they had an article about, and lo and behold, these students coming in from Europe that were dissatisfied with their work visa situation.
Okay.
And I have heard this for over a decade.
J1 thing.
J1, yeah. And and there's a large corporation that puts out these ads out there. I knew from folks in Brazil that I had known that promised them a certain wage, that promised them certain living conditions, and a certain lifestyle. And they get here, they don't have any place to live. They have to be in a hovel with about 13 other people, and the pay isn't even close to what they thought they were going to get. And then they leave going back. And I guess the majority of these folks that they interviewed were working for beach services, beach services.
Yeah.
The city took away all the beach services from the resorts,
Right.
and then put out their own contractors, and then hired people from other countries to charge $40 a day for sitting in a chair. And so, which is a great scheme, business model. Anyway, these people were very upset, but the problem is that the retention, or how many of them actually go back, especially when we were getting them from South America. A lot of them weren't going back because they didn't want to go back to their other situation. They thought they could leak out to get in construction jobs and things like that, and then they get trapped here and so on. You've worked. And I know at the beginning of your campaign, you were talking about the people that are trying to become American citizens, and the toils that they had and so on. And what is it, the word that you want to get out in your campaign on some of your solutions and
Sure.
some of the things you've been working on?
Yeah. So immigration is a federal issue. The Constitution is very clear about that. The federal government determines who can come in, who can't, how long they can stay. They're also responsible for ensuring that the people that are here essentially anything that has to do with immigration. So from a state level, there's not much that we can do, but what we can do is work on the term integration, right? Which is the people that are here, the South Carolina government, South Carolina National Guard. We can't do anything to physically impact them at all, but we can realize if they're here, we can both use their skills. We can help them to help our community to be a better place. Most of them that are here, they want to work, they want to obey the law, they want to get legal if they can, and we can't give them that legal status, but we can integrate the people that the federal government's not doing anything with. Both be a benefit to us and a benefit to them as well.
Now, that's got to be a huge impact, especially to District 68.
Sure.
Burgess communities in your
part of it,
area,
yep.
and that's got a large community of
Same thing,
immigrants.
Sockasty.
The whole area.
Sure.
So that's got to be something that's got to be impacted and so on. That's got to be one of the leading things in your campaign. I hope people are listening when they do that.
But see, it's scary for people a lot of times because they hear anything to do with immigration these days and they assume it's really negative, really bad, crime, drugs, everything else, and you know, regardless of whether that's true or not, we have to realize we got to talk to Tom Rice about that. We got to talk to Lindsey Graham about that. The people in the federal government, but our state elected officials, they're the ones that can determine how are we going to best work with the people that are here while they're here. Exactly. Yep.
Well, being libertarian, I know you're kind of like I am. All the real solutions are going to be from the grassroots. It's all local.
Yep.
And all the problems that we seem to get are coming from the upper tiers of government putting blocks in our way from achieving those goals.
Yep.
And do you see any of those blocks that are impacted, that are brought in from, say, the county or state government for these people? I don't know if it has to do with driver's licenses.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've created from a state, or really just maintained, because nobody's done anything about it, a situation that's really bad for anybody that's here from another country, to where, if they've been living here a week or 50 years, if they can't get a license, they're then endangering potentially the other people that are on the streets with them. People historically, they go where jobs are. And so if they're here, it's because they're working, right? If they weren't working, they'd have to go somewhere else, whether in the upstate or Georgia, but they are here. And so clearly there's benefit to them for being here. And in some level, there's a market benefit to the people that live here as well, because if nothing else, we are experiencing lower costs for things because of them being employed over maybe somebody else.
Yeah.
So
now, I understand. I saw somebody else talk about this too. They were talking about BioLift licenses, and I guess what it means is that you either have fingerprints or some other kind of DNA that goes in with the temporary visitor's driver's license, because the idea is that the driver's license is not a right, of course. It's a privilege, and the states can grant the privilege for people to drive on the roads. And in order to do that, we can make whatever requirements. You have to wear a hat every time you drive or anything like that. But they can make a requirement for visitors to proclaim their name, so they don't go under 45 different names, and that they have to give bio, or they have to have prints or something like that. But the I don't know why, but they have so many people that are so dead set against it. And I can't, for the life of me, I can't understand what they think is, what are we going to do with these, steal their identities so we can, what? I mean,
I probably have a little different take, although I certainly understand exactly where you're coming from. And I guess the way I would, first of all, we are a nation of immigrants from the get-go. There's not very many people who were born here in the 1500s and they're still here.
Yeah.
So most of this nation is immigrants. The difference to me today and before, from when in my youth and where we are now, is that we worked hard together to integrate ourselves.
Right.
Even with various different social, economic groups, faiths, religions, of what colors, backgrounds, nationalities. Okay, so for instance, I was originally born in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if I was born there, it was originally. And Cleveland is a town like a lot of those Rust Belt towns that has pockets of neighborhoods, the Greek section, the Italian section. You know what? But guess what? When they got up and put on their outfit to go to work, whether it was a welder or a businessman, they integrated.
Yep.
We're not doing that anymore. We're now hyphenating every freaking thing. Everything is, in fact, one of my big concerns about our local community here is that we're pulling ourselves apart, distancing ourselves from everybody else.
Exactly.
So I try to describe this, and I'll make it short because I want to hear more from Cameron, but my way of looking at this immigration thing, and it seems to work with people, is to say, let's forget about the country. In fact, you made a great point where you said it's all local. All politics is local, and if we don't understand that, we're never going to survive.
Yep.
So just imagine this. Forget about immigration on a national level. Forget about refugees. Forget about that stuff. You have a family with 3 kids. You live in the suburbs, okay? You've been there for 6 years. You pay for your mortgage and everything else. You get up every morning and you make coffee and you tell your wife, come on down, the coffee's ready, and she makes breakfast for the kids before they go to school. So you get up and you go downstairs one day and you hear a noise in the basement while the coffee's burning. And you have a walkout basement. And when you get down there, there's a family of Mexicans living there. And you go, what's going on? And they say, well, the back door was open and we didn't have any place to sleep and it was warm, it's cold outside. And so you don't go, I'm calling the cops. What you do is you say, want some coffee? And then you go make coffee, and then the wife comes down and says, let's take them breakfast. And then the next thing is, do the kids go to school? Yeah, we'll take them to the bus stop, and our kids will take care of them. And the next thing you know is they don't have any money, so you're going to loan them some money. And pretty soon you wake up one morning and there's 12 families living down there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All they had to do is knock on the front door and say, I want to come in. If you go in the back door of this country, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want you there.
Yeah.
Go to the front door and we welcome you. We'll figure out how to solve the J1 problems, all the other stuff. But you got to go through the front door.
Well, that's it. And I think I think some of the things that the federal government is starting to make steps toward, one, shutting down some of those, the back doors. You know, so
I have a different opinion on that. I think that what we see when we look at what's happening, even in the past couple of weeks, is, and it's actually been going on a lot longer than that. It's just been more public the past couple of weeks. They're not just closing down the back doors. We're seeing now them closing the front doors and saying we don't want anybody else coming in. They're putting severe limitations on legal immigration, on legal refugee programs, and all the while, for decades now, I would say our back door has had a welcome sign on it because we're needing them. We're asking them to come in to work on our farms, to work on our construction crews, and they really uphold a lot of our economy, even like our Social Security. It's so easy for them to get fake Social Security cards, pay Social Security for 20 years while they're living here, but they don't have access to any of the benefits. Thanks to Bill Clinton 1996 with the reform of our welfare program. But the problem is, publicly, on the news, on Facebook especially, there's such always a different story when you're typing and talking together, feel like intellectually over how things are and how things look, and actually when you, like you said, put on your clothes and go to work and meet the people and actually see who is this family that's living down here, why are they here, and I really heard a great idea recently that takes the idea of immigration and localizes it, right? Everything's local, to where, you know, if we get to Horry County and Horry County sees a benefit, the federal government's going to leave these people here, we see a benefit in using them for work, so we give them temporary driver license, we give them the ability to pay taxes to our local government, we give them the ability to integrate here much easier. But let's say right down the road, let's say Georgetown County, they are completely, I'm not saying I don't know anybody from Georgetown County, but let's say they're completely anti-immigrant, they can choose policies for their local community that pushes it away, makes it very difficult, makes it a hostile environment for anybody that might not be here illegally. What that does is it's going to take the immigrants that the federal government's left here and allow them and encourage them to relocate to places that enjoy and want their presence and their benefit that they bring, which is going to be a better life for them. It's going to give the people that live in these local communities the type of community that they want. But again, it all has to come down to localizing the authority, which I think is super important.
Another thing that you mentioned that I do agree with you too is the immigration on the front door, the restrictions. I've been reading through them. I don't like it because it sounds like we're selling immigration now. They're coming up with a plan of going to the highest bidder for immigration. When I read through it, what I would like to do, what I would like to see, is to get rid of the antiquated born here, citizen here law. I mean, that's archaic. If we could get rid of that to start out with, so then we don't have people flying in here in their 9th month to give birth.
Well, the question with that though is let's say Tom has a child tomorrow. Is that kid, what does he have to do or she have to do to get citizenship at that point?
Well, that's why I said that's the first step, is to get rid of that. Second step is then, like we were saying, is to come up with a fair and equitable and a distinctive way for people, for a pathway for getting citizenship.
So then everybody that's newly born in our country would have to follow that pathway then, is that right?
Everybody.
Okay, yeah, I'm
and
curious,
because then that way it's not, we don't have somebody born here, they go back to Singapore. Actually, the people who've been abusing it the most will surprise you. It's the Chinese. They have been flying people in here, having them born, 9th month pregnant, born here, and then flying them back. But they're American citizens being raised in China. A lot of them. And they're doing it systematically. And you know that their government is the one that's funding this. And so we've got to be able to say, okay, we've got to solve this problem before it starts, heading this way. And we can do it retroactively too, saying, hey, if you were born here and then you haven't lived here for, so many months after your birth, you're also not a citizen. And just to get it back to where we can get, like you said, a decent pathway, so that people will go in, register, get to be known, know what their pathway and what their expectations are for it. Because, like we said, the expectations always were, it was rough for everybody to come in. I mean, I tell the story about my grandfather. When he came in, he was, a few years old, had a infant sister who was like less than 2 years old. Came in on the SS Vera. First time they had electricity on it. Came over there in steerage, and the stories were that they would be spit on as people would throw pieces of bread down to them. And they came in, and I guess the romantic things of Ellis Island, it wasn't really a romantic thing at all. It was kind of really denigrating to a lot of people, and they didn't. Whoever was behind the desk and helping them sign in determined what your name really was going to be, and if they couldn't really spell it out or anything else, they'd Americanize it and then have you sign it, and that's who you were for the rest of your life. I saw a joke the other day why so many Italians are called Tony, because everything on their so is 2NY. Anyway, but it was rough, and you also had to have a sponsor when you came in. And
so let me ask you all a question. What's the value of citizenship? Is there any value to it whatsoever? Why bother?
Well, that's it. The value of citizenship has to do not with economy. And that's where I think a lot of people...
Does it have to do with allegiance?
I don't think it shouldn't have to do with allegiance.
Wow.
I think the value of citizenship should have to do with a shared goal in life. I don't. The reason why, and the reason why I don't like allegiances is because, personally, I don't like collectivism. Any club that would have me as a member, I don't want to be part of, because there's got to be something wrong with the club. But I think that so many people are, in a lot of the problems I can point to is collectivism. Here's a for instance. I'm talking to these alt-right people. I know. And I'm trying to get them to understand my position of why I am not alt-right. And one of the fellows there said, well, you've got Black Lives Matter, you've got all these groups that are coming after us. Who's protecting the whites? I said, you know what? We don't need protection. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, because I'm not part of that group. I said, I'm not a collectivist. We're all individuals. If we would just break apart the groups, be individuals, and then just worry about what our goals are and our aims are, and then just join whatever project or goal it is, and then do it. If you feel it's accomplished, then go find something else to do. If you're not happy with the direction the group is, drop out and find another goal to go for. But the idea of being with these groups, they deteriorate because you end up having tiers of leadership, of power. There's aggression that goes on with it. There's always going to be cliques within them, and that's where the deterioration comes from. And then there's always retribution for somebody who's going to lead the group. If we can get rid of that collectivist feeling, if we can have people that are more focused on the goals.
Would you agree that the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution are for individuals or groups?
Absolutely. The founders of this country were absolutely focused on individuals.
Correct.
Absolutely, because these guys, when they sat in the pubs and the coffee houses and tea houses or wherever you want to call it, they were not at all 100% on the page with all their other brothers when they were writing these articles and pages. You can see throughout history, those of us who've studied history can read all the different things where they would just absolutely give, to the point where they're dueling. They would be so passionate about one thing or another, but they were all agreeing on one thing. We're going to get rid of the oppression of ruling where we don't have a word or we don't have a say. Even though we disagree, we're going to form something where we can actually have a voice. And I think here locally, that's where people are so fed up. We don't have a frickin' voice anymore. They're hushing us up at like you're saying, just locally.
Do you think a mass of individuals can have a goal or an end without allegiance to something?
No, you have to have. I guess because semantics is so hard. You have to have allegiance to a goal or a
But why not making a nation worth being a part of?
Well, that's it. If you can have a nation that is like the founders had, that is based on liberty, freedom, the pursuit of happiness, not the guarantee of happiness. That is where we need to go. But too many people, especially nowadays, they think that there's some sort of guarantee of happiness. I'm unhappy. The government's got to do something to help me get happy. That's not what the founders wanted. They never said it.
So, this is an interesting conversation. I look forward to pursuing this even more. Let's get real though. Okay, do you think the world is ready for globalism?
That's what I'm afraid of. Yeah.
Why would you be afraid of it? That's what you're promoting. Individualism. No borders, no laws, no groups, all individuals.
Well,
you can't do that, Will. We don't live. That is. I love what you're saying, and it's a dream. It's Lord of the Flies. Okay, give me a break.
Borderland anarchy.
You put a bunch of people on an island, and guess what's the first thing that happens? Form of government.
Larry Sharp, is a good friend of mine. He's up in New York, and we've always talked about the fact that that's how protection is how we started out with.
Right.
And again, when I'm talking about individualism, I'm a minarchist. A lot of people get me confused with the anarchist. I'm not. I think that we do have to have governmental constructs. We do have to have protection. But we have people that are on the broad spectrum. We have people that are over here that want to have totalitarian government control.
Right.
The Marxists. You have to have totalitarian government control in order for socialism and Marxism to work.
Yeah.
Then you have on the far, far side the anarchists, open borders, everything's, the wild, wild west were all super individualists. You're right. It's because there are too many people that are going to be fighting against that. That's against human nature because there's going to be envy. There's going to be, historical hatreds, that they go in that don't make any sense, that's, going on in the Middle East and things like that. And so, yeah, you have to have some protections and so on and so forth. But if we can protect ourselves from the outside and then try to put this, pie in the sky utopia in the inside, why not?
So let's take one example.
Okay.
Let's take the First Amendment,
All right.
which is the most important words on earth.
Amen. Yeah.
And there's a reason for that it became the First Amendment. And it does three things. But we're only going to talk about one, and that's religion.
Right.
It is amazing to me how we have completely distorted those words in this country. It's completely distorted. Thomas Jefferson did not write, or the founders, Madison and so forth, did not write in the Constitution separation of church and state. That doesn't exist.
That
was in a letter from Thomas Jefferson to his nephew in Boston.
That's right.
While he was president.
Yeah.
However, so what does it say? It's amazing how we have conveniently only look at one of the two clauses about religion. It says, Congress shall not
pass no law
with establishing a religion. Mm-hmm. So we can't become a Catholic country, a Jewish country. We can't do that.
Right.
That's against the law. Okay. It also says, nor can it pass a law that prohibits you from practicing whatever religion you want. Which means you can stand on the steps of the Capitol with a cross or whatever you want. You have every right to do that. We don't do all they talk about is the first half of it, not the second half. And if we start losing our religious freedoms, then we're going to lose all the rest of them. I think we already are. So there's an example of, it's like Myrtle Beach 8 years ago, because of this bike thing, passed 13 ordinances, 11 of which we got overturned in 7 months at the Supreme Court, because they were totally unconstitutional. Not just here, anywhere. Freedom of assembly. You know what they did? They said if 3 or more bikers are gathered in one place, they can be arrested for illegal assembly. Well, that's in the Constitution, isn't it? So I guess what I'm saying is we have to be very careful. You said it best. When the founders got together, and that was divine intervention as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't believe in God, that's fine, but it was either divine intervention or the universe was working on our behalf. Because you put some of the greatest minds in the same place at the same time and wrote documents that here we are, almost 250 years later, are still as valid today as they were then.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Well, and here's another thing that used to
good stuff.
Another thing that would frighten people is, and they don't understand it, is when we talk about NAP. NAP. The non-aggression principle. Yeah. And some of the guys, fellow Marines would go ballistic when they first hear about that. Oh, you want to get rid of the military? I'm like, no, are you freaking nuts? No, I don't. The non-aggression principle has nothing to do with getting rid of the military. It has nothing to do with disarming American citizens or anything like that. As a matter of fact, the people who support NAP are also the biggest supporter of the Second Amendment.
Okay.
I mean, the more people I've run into with, I'm part of this, the conceal and carry groups and things like that. Because without the Second Amendment, we're going to lose the First Amendment.
That's right. So
I've been real big on that, but I have seen in 4 different, elections outside of this state. One's in Colorado, and I can't remember the other 3. But the opposition has attacked libertarians on NAP by misrepresenting and making it sound like, like that they're trying to disarm people. And the principle, and that's what it is. It's a principle. It's even talking about the idea of, for instance, how I wish I had that quote that was from Penn right now, but it had something to do with you can't tell me that you're a more kind and civilized person by voting to have public money with supported by guns and and violence in order to support the poor, as opposed to someone who actually goes out and helps them.
Yeah.
And that's precisely it. That's how I'm seeing the left nowadays. They're not willing to go out and really help the poor, help people out, but they sure as heck want to make sure that everybody else does it for them. And that is the aggressive side that's going through.
Cameron, what do you think about Alexandria Cortez?
Osmorio.
The socialist gal that won in Brooklyn. It's like,
I think it's the good thing I can say about that is I think she did a fantastic job of letting people know what she was running on, getting support for her ideas, her philosophy. Now, I completely disagree with most of the philosophy, but I think it does show that if you have a message that people can get behind, you can overturn crazy odds, which is obviously a good thing from my perspective, from where I'm sitting right now.
So when you watch, what's the guy on Fox? Used to have his own show, I think, that goes out and interviews people. You know what I'm talking about? He interviewed, like he'll go to Harvard and do these man on the street interviews and ask them questions. So he was at Harvard, and these are Harvard students, and he asked, the question was, who won the Civil War? Not one student knew. The first guy goes, France.
Oh, good Lord.
And it went downhill from there. And so my concern is, I totally agree with what you're saying, is that Alexandria Cortez tapped into something. Stupidity and ignorance.
Yep.
The reason they support her is because they think that there's this fountain of money over here. Mm-hmm. Everybody seems to forget with socialism that sooner or later, what was it that the British gal said? She said sooner. Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
The problem with socialism, sooner or later you run out of other people's money.
Yeah.
Okay? Like sooner, not later.
Right.
And we are already in 20. Look, when I first created Up With America, you may remember this. Well, actually, I started it 10 years ago, but I did the movie 3 years ago. And the national debt was just had flipped over $19 trillion. You know what it is now? It's almost going to hit 22 trillion. It's only been 5 years.
Wow.
Okay, so this will not work. I hope it's not Venezuela, but we could be looking at that, or Greece or something.
Yeah.
They walk around in Venezuela right now with wheelbarrows to buy a loaf of bread, wheelbarrows of money. So
She found a way to tap in and get people who hadn't voted in years to vote.
bingo. And it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
They don't
But
understand.
I think going back to what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, I think you really hit it. It's government works best the way that America used to run, which is as a constitutional republic, right? Mm-hmm. We elect folks, and then they have to abide by the Constitution. Now, federally, it's a joke because they do so many things that obviously aren't given powers by the Constitution, whereby the states should have that authority. And that's one thing that I'm trying to really fight for on a state level, is to see, can we have a Constitution? Ours is really, really long. It has a lot of outdated information in it. But the fact is if we can get the general public, right, the folks that we see every day, our neighbors, to see that we have a list of rules that our government is supposed to abide by, and those are the extent of what they can do. Anything else that's not covered in that, you can still do it, but voluntarily, right? Get people to support it and fund whatever you want to do. If Miss New York, right? She's in New York.
Yeah.
If she wants to do all these programs that she thinks are so good, if they're good programs, people will voluntarily give to them. And the thing that I love about that, which the government doesn't have the safety net of, is if the government funds a program, and it sounds really good, everybody gets on board, they get the votes they need, they get the public support they need, and then it fails, if it doesn't do what it was supposed to do, it keeps going, or it gets more money. It's consistently all that happens. Whereas if private entities do that, right, nonprofits and church organizations, if they fail, then people stop giving money to it because either it's corrupt or they're just not efficient at doing what they're supposed to do, which is why I think that all of these things work better on a private, local level rather than more and more money from the federal government.
Yeah.
Here's a local example. And even though you would be a state representative, I think you have an impact on it.
Sure.
About 3 years ago, the city of Myrtle Beach got rid of the safe house for women that are victims of domestic violence. Got rid of it. You know how they got rid of it? Because the mayor decided that we had to have some place for homeless people to go. So they turned that shelter into, it's not only for domestic violence victims, but for homeless people. And about 3 days later, all the domestic violence victims left because they cannot possibly be around that.
Yeah.
Okay? So we don't have one. Okay, so South Carolina is the fifth in the nation in domestic violence, first in the nation in murders caused by husbands or by spouses. I don't know how many women kill their husbands, but I know some that want to.
Yeah.
And Horry County is number 1 in the state, and Myrtle Beach is number 1 in Horry County. We don't have a safe home. So here's what's happening. A group of really well-intentioned people, I'm helping them, have created this thing. It's Family Justice Center, and they're trying to raise money to buy the property and build a safe house for these victims, right?
Yeah.
So at the rate they're going, and I look, I admire them, I'm trying to help them, but at the rate they're going, there'll be 61 times 10 years, probably about 1,000 women that are dead because it's going to take forever to raise almost $2 million what they need. So here's my question. Horry County has a budget of almost $500 million. Okay, the cities and towns probably collectively have another $200 million. More than that probably. They can't, with the power that they have today, the chairman of Horry County Council could pick up the phone, instruct county council employees to purchase a 15-bedroom home or build one, get a mortgage on it for $10,000 a month, and start tomorrow morning putting women in these safe houses and get the towns to support it. And then this group that's been formed can raise money to fund the ongoing upkeep of it. But it should be built today. No, it's not even on their radar. They're more concerned about I-73, which is a complete joke.
Boondoggle.
It's a boondoggle, yeah. So that's what I love about what you're saying. It's like there's things we can actually do to make people's lives better.
Right.
And that's what you want to do. And that's
Yes,
what I love.
and the other side of that, which is so important, is that if we get these things to the local level where your county council chairman, your city councils, they're the ones that are responsible for taking this money and using it to do the things that they got elected on.
Yep.
If they don't do it, each vote weighs so much more than it does on a federal election or even a state election.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to replace them with somebody that, then would have to do it or get replaced again. And so I think that's the value of more power on the local level. And then the other side of that is, I think one of the responsibilities of the state government, especially I would say the governor, is to monitor how these local governments are doing things to ensure there's not the corruption that seeps in, there's not the waste of money that seeps in. And that should be some of the main responsibilities of the state government, is to allow the local communities, the municipal governments to run, and then to support it to ensure that it stays ethical.
Excuse me, guys, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. I just want to thank everybody for trying to tune in on the live stream. And we're just going to continue with our conversations and so on. We'll, if you guys are willing to, I'm going to be back here next Friday. Same bat channel, same bat time. Hefe will be serving coffee, and we're going to be having a good time. And hopefully I'll have a better live stream because I'll have better equipment. And so I just want to bid everybody, say goodbye, everybody.
Well, before we say goodbye, I want to thank you, Will, for doing this. This is the kind of thing that I think is ultimately going to make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is what made a difference in the county council election.
Yep.
It's social media and people being connected that were never connected before, so keep it up.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that we get this guy into the State House, and we want to make sure that this guy has plenty of coffee, and we'll have a new coffee for the for all of us to enjoy next week. So anyway, something new and different will probably be, tiger's milk or something like that. So anyway, take care, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you later. Anyway.
Sweet.
Cool.